There are two kinds of people in this world. Either you're doing things you know you shouldn't, or you're not doing things you know you should. Guess what? We're both. Hi, I'm Marcy Barker, life and business coach, aka your loving kick in the pants. This podcast is here to help you become accountable with aligned action and become boss-minded while growing a business without sacrificing what matters most. Let's dive in.
Good morning, my beautiful people. I just got done with a business group called BNI. If you guys know me, you've known that I've been in BNI before. And I think I found a really good chapter that I'm going to join. So I'm coming home from that meeting and it's like 45 minutes to an hour away from my house, which is fine because this drive is beautiful. But this gives me a lot of time to listen to podcasts and to have intentional time to just think about what's coming up next for me. Also, I was like, let me put my mic in my bag in case I want to record something while I'm out here, and we'll see how this all works out. But I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about the difference between intensity and intentionality, and the difference between impulse decisions and intentional decisions. And for somebody who really resonates with the word intensity, I'm like, yeah, tell me all of the things, because I'm a very intense person. And if you guys are listening to this podcast, you're loving kick in the pants, then chances are you have some sort of intensity about you, or you're hoping to become more intense about the things that you're trying to do and the goals that you're trying to reach. And your loving kick in the pants is all about helping you define those things of like, what are you doing that you should probably stop, and what are you not doing that you should probably start? And when I was at this meeting at BNI, whenever you attend and you're not a member, they ask you if you want to join, and they kind of give you their little sales pitch and stuff. And obviously I already know all of that because I'm here, because I am going to join it. But what's really interesting about hearing the requirements, it's like I'm hearing them again, but I'm hearing them differently than I heard them the first time. So when I told them that I was joining, I was like, I can totally do all the requirements. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to be as intense as I was the first time I was in BNI, because I spent a lot of time helping other people grow their business, but I didn't receive in the same way. And a lot of that was because I didn't have the organization in my business that I have now. And so talking about intensity, I have a habit of going into a group and being like, I love everything about this. I'm going to do it. I'm so excited. And I've learned over the years that I can't have the intensity with the impulse, because that's really dangerous for me. And I learned that in 2021 when I made a lot of decisions that seemed really great because I had the intensity, but I did not have the intentionality. I didn't have the overall big picture and the plan. And in the business meeting, the person who spoke up, she talked about having reciprocity between two people. And she said, if you were going to go to somebody in this group and you say, hey, for the next 30 days, I'm going to be a salesman for you, I'm going to help you grow your business, what do you think the person listening to you is going to say? And chances are they would want to have that same intensity for you. So going into this new group, I'm like, I could be that way for everybody. But I know that in the past, me having that intense, impulsive behavior for everybody else, I actually wasted a lot of energy because I was not making sure my own mask was taken care of. You know, putting on your own mask, making sure you have oxygen before other people have it. So listening to this podcast about intentionality and impulsiveness, I'm like, no, I feel really good about my decision. And the lady was like, are you going to join? Like, we sent you an application a month ago. And I told everybody the first time I joined, I said, this is amazing. This looks like the group that I should be in, but I'm going to be out of town for a month. So mid-month, next month, I'll come and give you guys an answer. And it just felt really good to say, here's the choice that I'm going to make intentionally, and have a whole plan set out for that. Not just so I can be the best member for the group, but to make sure that I'm taken care of first. Because a lot of people in business, if you are not making sure your own plan and your own strategy is in place and that it makes sense, any kind of collaboration you do or any client you go and try and grab, there's no guarantee that it's going to stick or that it's going to be a good benefit for your business. So in this podcast today, I want to talk more about intensity and whether to apply, or I should say how to apply that with intentionality and try to not do it with impulsiveness because it really does make a difference. All right. So if we're going to talk about intention, one of the things that has helped me learn intention is if something is on my radar before I hear about it from someone else, that is always a good indicator for me because it means that I have put some planning and preparation into this idea and this concept, and I wasn't just excited about somebody else telling me what to do. And in the past, I have recognized that there have been times where I did something just because somebody planted the idea in my head and got me on board with it. And it doesn't always turn out to be the best. Like here's one example. Okay. One day, 10 years ago, was it 10 years ago? I don't even know. Longer than that. It's been longer than that. I get a text from somebody that says, "Hey, Marcy, so-and-so gave me your phone number. I'm in this contest to win a pink Cadillac and I need to do facials on this many faces. Your friend said that you would probably help me out with my goal." And I was like, I could totally help you out. And so I go to get this facial. It's Mary Kay. Not the actual lady, it's a consultant. So I show up, I do this facial, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then, because who doesn't want help with their skin? At that time, I was 20 years old. I had a couple of kids, and I think any woman cares about her appearance, so there's always things that you're going to be naturally interested in. So anyway, at this facial, the person's like, "Hey, so we have to, in order for me to win this contest, I've got to show the business opportunity to 25 people." I think it was actually like 60, because then you would need like 25 people to actually show up, and then 5 people would actually do a follow-up. Anyway, and she was like, "Free lunch. So I'll feed you lunch. It's going to be at Chili's. We can eat lunch. We can talk about the thing, and then that's it. Like, no obligation, whatever." And I was like, free lunch? Mom with 2 kids, student teaching, sign me up. I can come to Chili's and help you out. Okay, so hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about. Like maybe you guys have been in this situation. So we're at Chili's. I get my favorite chicken enchilada soup, salad. I didn't have to pay for it, and I also am just really extroverted. I'm having a good time. And then we learn about the business opportunity. And I did not know that people purchase a lot of makeup up front and then do facials. They're like, you just need the starter kit. It's only $100. You get all the shades of foundation and you just start matching people. And I was like, okay. So I use the common excuse, like, let me talk to my husband, which everybody says. And so I talked to Aubrey, and Aubrey, I don't know, 15 years ago, he was more entrepreneur. I mean, he's always been very entrepreneurial. And I was too. But I was like, I've never thought about selling makeup or skincare. Yes, I was a cheerleader in high school, but I am like not hyped up on doing my makeup all the time. I'm low maintenance. And so I just never really ever considered selling makeup or skincare. So I take the opportunity home to Aubrey, and I was just like, here's what this person says. Oh, and guess what? She already has a pink Cadillac. So I thought I was helping her earn a pink Cadillac, but no, she already had one. So, but forget that. We're going to just forget that detail because I was excited about this possibility. I was just following through. I'll talk to my husband. So Aubrey was like, you know what? If you want to put $1,000 into this to try it out, he's like, you can try it out. And still, again, I'm in school. I'm in school to be a teacher. And for some reason, Aubrey thought it was a good idea. And I was like, well, if he thinks I can do it, like, I don't think I really, well, I know for a fact, I didn't really sit down and like think about this decision. I just was like, I can be successful because I'm extroverted and I have sold things. I mean, I sold stuff all growing up. But again, I never was like, let me sell makeup and skincare. So I told this person, I was like, hey, I think I want to do this. And so we sit down and she's like, let's go over all the different inventory packages. And the smallest inventory package was $1,800. I think maybe that's a lie. Maybe it was like $1,200, but she's like, don't get that one because it doesn't have all the popular stuff that people are going to buy. You need the $1,800 one. So I bring it home to Aubrey and I was like, actually it's $1,800. And he's like, that's almost double what we talked about, but it seems like this lady knows what she's doing. She's got the pink Cadillac and stuff. And anyway, so we placed an order. I honestly don't even remember how we paid for it. I'm going to have to go home and ask Aubrey because I'm curious. I don't recall how we paid for it. We've always been like pay cash for stuff, but I honestly can't remember. $1,800 when I was student teaching, it kind of seems like a big chunk for me back then. So anyway, we do it. I start selling Mary Kay and I become a Mary Kay lady, which I always got pissed when people call me lady. I'm like, I'm 20 years old. I'm not a lady yet, but I did very well with it. And I learned so many things on how to sell. And it was fun and I enjoyed it. And there were some days where I'm like, I made more money than my husband. And, I'd go to a party and I'd sell $1,000 worth of makeup and I qualified for my first car and they call it car production. But of course that requires you not just selling products, but, getting people to join.
Hey, my beautiful people. If you're loving these episodes, you'll want the full experience. I've bundled both of my books, The Accountability Code and Becoming Boss Minded, into one powerful package. You'll get instant access to the audiobooks and ebooks so you can learn and grow anytime, anywhere. Head to bossminded.com and grab the book bundle now. It's the perfect way to stay inspired between episodes. All right, let's dive back in.
So anyway, all of this to say, I learned so much when I sold Mary Kay, and I learned a lot about business. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about sales. And I'm not saying that being impulsive hasn't had its benefits, but having been down the opposite road now of being intentional with business, I can tell you that it brings a lot more peace and clarity. And one thing that was really interesting, and you all, if you've ever been in direct sales, probably have noticed this too, that like I said, I was student teaching when I was selling Mary Kay, and my life just changed. I was pregnant with my third baby. I was finishing out my hardest times during school. Like, I still was in my lunch hour calling people for Mary Kay facials, and I was like going to graduate soon. And I was like, why am I trying to sell makeup and earn a car and do all this amazing stuff when I'm literally going to school to get my degree right now? And so I decided to scale back a little bit, and I continued to go to the weekly meetings, and every week they would clap for whoever made the most money, whoever gave the most facials. And there came a time where I showed up at those meetings and I wasn't number one anymore, and I wasn't getting clapped for. And I realized that was not a healthy place for me to be, in such a place that was so competitive that you only got rewarded for succeeding, because there was a time where I couldn't operate at that same pace. And it was really sad to say that when I stopped, like, nobody cared for me anymore. Nobody called me. Nobody reached out. Nobody was friends with me. It was just really interesting how quickly it could be built up and how quickly it could fall. And I would love to tell you that I never ever made another impulsive choice again when starting a business, but I can tell you that there were a lot of benefits to that. And as I've gotten older, so that was 20, that was 15 years ago. And I've learned a lot more, but I can tell you that when you are intentional with what you want to do, like, your business direction is going to change. What you sell is going to change. The way that you operate is going to change. And being intentional is so needful for you to create clarity in your life and peace in your life. And when you are intentional, so let's talk about my book, The Accountability Code. Somebody told me, you're going to write this book. And I was like, I don't really know. You want to know what was crazy though, is that I wrote my book in 2021. It was published in 2022, but in 2017, I put on my vision board that I was going to write a book. And putting that on my vision board was an impulsive thing to do because it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I just heard that if you wrote a book, a lot of things would open up for you. And I didn't act on that impulsively. I kind of sat there and thought about it. And when push came to shove and it was time for me to write my book, I noticed that me being more intentional about it made me more serious about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to teach other people. So in the grand scheme of things, in your own business and in your own life, I want you to ask yourself if your intensity is backed by impulsiveness or if it's backed by intentionality, because it's really going to make a difference. And me moving forward, seeing how successful my book was and how it changed my business for the better. When I came to write my next book, Becoming Boss-Minded, my intention was even stronger because I had experience and I knew what it would take. And my intention could be more clear and more updated because I knew what my purpose was. And if you first know what your purpose and your intention is, and then you throw intensity at it, guess what happens? Great things are going to happen. First book, Accountability Code, I wrote that in 40 weeks. Guess what? Becoming Boss-Minded, I wrote that in 20 and a half weeks. Like just about half the time, but it's because I knew exactly what I wanted to do and intensity could just light it up. So I want you to ask yourself first, like, what is your direction right now? Are you acting out of impulse or are you acting out of intention? And where is going to be the best place for you to add that intensity? And I hope that as you're moving forward in business, that this is something that you ask yourself often, because I don't know about you, but for me, it's very easy to fall back into being impulsive, especially when you're really good at taking action really fast. So I've had to learn, like, just because I can do it quickly and just because I can do it really well, doesn't mean I need to throw all of my intensity behind an impulsive choice. All right, before we end this episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants, I want to just highlight one of the stories in the Becoming Boss-Minded book. This comes from chapter 6, which is innovation and creativity. And guess what? One of the very first stories in here is how to innovate without losing focus. And I hope that as you've listened to this podcast today, that you've had your own experiences where you're like, oh yeah, I jumped into something too quickly. And as a business owner and entrepreneur, that's a really good skill to have. But I promise you that if you put some intention and focus behind your intensity, it's going to be really good. So reminder, you guys can get this if you go to bossminded.com or marcybarker.com. You can get the audiobook for $14.99 and the ebook as well. And if you want the physical copy, you can just head to Amazon. But and the very, very first step of innovating without losing focus is first you have to define your core values and your vision. So remember, I said that I never really wanted to sell makeup or skincare. Like that was never a dream of mine. I never really cared about it. And had I done the very first step of defining my core values and vision, maybe I would have just stuck to school. Maybe I would have just stayed focused on school. And I'm not saying that what I did was wrong, but I am saying that I was never destined to sell makeup or skincare. So you ask me now, like, to go down that road, I'd be like, no, thank you. And not just because I've been there, done that, but because I know that that's not my thing in life. Step 2 is stay client-centered and results-focused. This is one that's really, really important because I have learned over the years to stay results-focused because I am married to somebody who is kind of the opposite. He likes to do a lot of He's a dreamer, so he can move on really quickly. Like, for example, I was pregnant with my second baby, almost due, and Aubrey decided he wanted to build a pondless fountain in our yard. And so I started making all the phone calls. We started picking up all the granite, all the brick, all the water features, and we built it in a week when I was pregnant. And it's like, maybe we could talk about the results we're working on right now, which is going to have a baby. So it's really just important to figure out, what you want. If you have a vision board, I have a vision board right here on my wall. It would be really good for me to look at this board periodically when I'm making big decisions in my life that are going to require more of my time. So for example, I can look at my vision board and then ask myself, okay, is this business group fit into my goals on the board? Because if it does, then that's a good indication that I have intention with intensity and not impulsivity. with intensity. Step 3 is to evaluate new ideas with a sales cycle lens. Now, this one, sales cycle is mentioned because we're talking about innovation and doing new things to grow your business. And sales cycle lens means like, is this actually going to benefit our business? Is this going to give us more money? And this is also really interesting because remember when I said I came home and I told Aubrey like the inventory package was 1,800? Like, I'm not even sure if we did all the numbers of how quickly I could make that back, but I did know that I could make money by selling because I had done that in the past. So evaluating new ideas, I think that is really important because evaluating just means like, let's go a little bit deeper with this and let's play out some scenarios based on our results instead of just jumping in and doing it. And I think from that point of view, like, it was really helpful to be in a group with somebody who already had a pink Cadillac. Like, as crazy it is to say, it's like that's a deciding factor, and that helps them sell more spots on their team as if they already have the results that they're promising they can get you to. All right, so step 4 is to test one thing at a time and get feedback. And this one is definitely going to challenge you with your intention if you are impulsive and you like to do things and jump from one thing to the next. But if you can just pick one small thing at a time, this is actually one thing that I've been better at is not making decisions too fast. Like working with somebody, getting a project off the ground, or even collaborations in Boss Minded, it's been nice to just do one thing at a time. Because you want to know what's crazy? At one point, Boss Minded did have a group of 10 different area admins where we were hosting events. And it seemed awesome to offer lots of different areas or events in different areas. But then the feedback we got was people were complaining that there were too many events and they had FOMO. And they're like, if you have so many scheduled, it's really hard for us to pick. And sometimes we want to go to all of them. And I did not foresee that happening at all. I thought that it would be a really great thing to offer more locations. But the feedback just said that we grew too fast. And believe it or not, that is a thing. So if you can test one thing at a time, that's also just going to help you practice your patience and your intentionality. And I think that's a really good thing too, to make sure that you grow at a healthy pace that keeps you in the right mindset. The last step is to build accountability and stay honest. Now, this is really important because staying honest it takes courage. It takes courage to jump ship, even if everybody around you thinks that you should just keep going and you should keep doing it. So innovation without accountability, it can just be another thing that you're like, you hope it works out, but you're never really sure. Or if it doesn't work out, you'll just jump on the next thing and pretend the last thing didn't exist. So I hope that this concept is helpful. Figure out the pathway you're going first. Is it impulsive or is it intentional? And then after you figure that out, then apply the intensity, and I don't think you can go wrong. So I hope this was helpful for you all, and I'll see you next week for another episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants.
Thanks for tuning in, friend. If this episode gave you value, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone in your circle who's ready to wake up, show up, and grow their business without sacrificing what matters most. When you do, you're not just helping them, you're building your network of like-minded leaders. And I'll say this plainly, leaving a kind review matters more than you know. It helps more people find the show and it keeps the momentum going. So pause for a moment and please drop that review. Lastly, if there's a topic you want me to cover, I want to hear from you. Reach out because this podcast is for you and I'm here to serve. Until next time, stay boss-minded.